What's your top wow, that actually worked moment? Went to check into a hotel. And I asked him if there was a parking fee. He replied with yes. It's $15 a night. I asked, any chance you could waive it? He replied with, yeah sure. I was like, okay. Thanks lol. Saved me $60. I met a girl in Thailand who bragged about her family and how her dad is a record exec. She said if I ever dropped their name at a BA lounge they would let me in. I was in London 2 years later and at the airport I asked them to look up the name at the lounge and they let me right in. I walked into a festival at midnight. No ticket. Showed the security guard my wrist. He flashed his flashlight at my wrist and pushed me through the gate. I had a really tough math problem in calc I didn't know the answer to. Something that used hip hop rap sales as a reference. I didn't know it. Ran out of time. And it was the last question on the assignment. So I wrote rap died in 1996 with Tupac. She marked it right. Obviously out of oversight. But my buddy beside me tried really hard to answer it. Got the wrong answer. And the professor marked him incorrect. He was flabbergasted. Had a then friend whose behavior was kind of sketchy and suspicious. All kinds of red flags with this guy. But no real proof of his sociopath nature. Just several suspicions. So one day I checked up on one of his stories. He'd have brand new vehicles for a while. Then they'd mysteriously vanish. He claimed to be rich. From mafia money. And he just got tired of that new Corvette or motorcycle or whatever. So I called the dealership where his last expensive car had been purchased and pretended to be a private detective. Working on behalf of a rich client. Who was thinking of doing business with my then friend. Just checking out his reliability. I told the guy. We see he bought a Corvette. The guy told me everything about how my friend put some short money down on the car then failed to make even a single payment afterwards. And successfully evaded the repo man for months until they finally caught up to him. I couldn't get away with it today. With everyone suspicious of phishing social engineering. Back then people were more naive and would spill the beans easily if you sounded legit on the phone. Told this girl in 2nd grade I was a psychic just to troll and she didn't believe me. Of course. So she asked me to predict something. I said, you're going to scream right now and she was saying, that's dumb. Why would I? A kindergartner playing tag randomly fell and rolled back into her legs and she screamed. Fans on my old MacBook had stopped working. Searched on YouTube for a fix and found a video that said sometimes there can be lint dust etc. clogging up the spinny mechanisms. A good thumping can get them back in order. The guy in the video proceeded to hammer the computer with his fists and the fans came back on. I shrugged. Gave it a shot. And to my surprise, they hummed back to life and I was back in business. Still can't believe it. I polished tile floors with a propane buffer. We were unloading the machine from the van when wind slammed the door shut. The door hit the oil fill tube and shattered it. Needed to find a way to fix it so we could do the jobs for the night. It was 2 in the morning and the only place open was Walmart. Walked around the hardware and automotive department for about 20 minutes trying to find something to fix it. Ended up with a pack of rubber feet for a brass tool. Self-taping screws. And had a roll of universal metal strap in my toolbox. Plugged the hole with the rubber foot. It was tapered and fit perfectly. Then ran the metal strap over the foot and screwed it into the frame of the machine. Took a week to get a replacement part and that held the whole time. Just couldn't check the oil for the week. After hours of trying to repair a broken digital camera, I went to throw it away. I shrugged and dropped it on the linoleum. Heard a horrible crack. The motor turned on making a jackhammer sound before it clicked and became a smooth hum. The camera worked after that. I repair slot machines for a living. One was frozen in game state with well over $1,000 on it. All the doors were closed. No jams in the dollar acceptor or the voucher printer. All the lights were on and the software just stopped mid-spin. I was thinking the game finally died and we'd need to reimburse the guest for their lost money. Which can take a while if it's a shitty ton of money like this. The guest jokingly asked if it just needed its butt kicked to work again. And I figured that since this game is old and durable, I'll indulge him. I kicked it. And the game came right back up. And the guest proceeded to win another $500 or so from that spin. Game was good for the rest of the day. 2. No errors or anything. I played it off as gracefully as I could. But I think that was my life's peak and I'll never look that f-king cool to anybody ever again. Edit. Why this comment blew up. I'm gonna reply to as many of you beautiful people as I can. Pressing the learn button on my garage door opener to program it with my car universal remote yesterday. I was a network engineer for an ISP at the time. And I had to get to a mountaintop where one of our towers were located to perform some maintenance. Had to ride a snowmobile all the way up there. And when I got there I realized I forgot the keys to the enclosure. Not to be defeated, I tried to pick the lock. And I got it to open after about 20 minutes of trying. Yay. I didn't have to quit for the day and got the work done. I was 12 and didn't know how to swim. I wound up in the deep end of a pool with dozens of other people who didn't realize I disappeared underwater. I struggled for a second then remembered something my childhood friend told me. All you have to do to float is bend over in water. I never had the guts to try when she told me. But I was about to die. So I just let my body relax. And bent over in the water by my waist and floated to the surface. Alive. I couldn't believe it was as simple as she said. Edit. Yes. After all this time floating, I can swim now. Thanks for the silver. I'm just glad I didn't latch onto someone else in the pool and drown them while trying to climb up to the surface. I hear that happens a lot. Jesus. Back in the 80s my family had no phone and as a teenager I had to call my friends from a payphone. Long girly calls cost me a fortune. These were the old dial phones. You had to put your money in and then it allowed you to dial. And I noticed that when I dialed a particular digit there were a corresponding number of blip sounds in the earpiece. I also noted that when I depressed the button which the receiver sat on there was the same tone. So I tried hitting that button the amount of times for each digit of my friend's telephone number. Egg the number 6,654,321. I'd hit the button 6 times. Pause and 6 times. Pause and 5 times and so on. That allowed me to bypass putting in money and make free calls. Early hacking. Making a cult Sony from scratch for my cooking class in high school. It was toward the end of the year. And my mind was not on the recipe. We were making the dough and I misread the recipe. I added 2 tea of sugar. And 0 oil. I only realized it when I got to the end and had a little bowl of oil left. Next day we take out our doughs. Prep and bake the calzones. Our dough came out fantastic. If a little pale. The other groups had dough that was weirdly yellow. And most of them just ate the inside. No one knew of my mistake because it worked. I wish I could say it was intentional. That I added extra sugar to feed the yeast or something clever. But nope. It was inattention that led to a lovely lunch. My friend and I were in community college. And Halo 3 just came out. We had papers due for our English class the next morning. Which did not get done. When the teacher asked us why they weren't done, I just told her we were up all night playing Xbox in front of the whole class. She laughed. Appreciated the honesty. And let us turn it in late since we didn't lie. Edit. He and I have been replaced with us. Thank you for your time. Opened a wine bottle using a shoe when no opener could be found. Had seen a Jimmy Dunn YouTube clip sometime in the prior months and gave it a shot. Decided on a whim to make some peanut sauce. Peanut butter. Soy sauce. A little water and it was looking closed but kind of clotting. When I stopped stirring. Randomly remember learning that vanilla goes in cookies and TBC it helps stuff makes. So add a dash of vanilla and the sauce instantly comes together. Felt like a mad genius. This was a very long time ago. I needed a C+ to graduate and didn't attend the final. Semicolon. So I went in and just told him I want a B to graduate, hoping he would let me retake it or at least negotiate to the point where I could make it a C+. Semicolon. So he tells me, sure. Have a great summer. Semicolon. Semicolon. I worked in a grocery store as a manager and there was wasp that was freaking everybody out. One thing led to another and while my intent was for it to be a joke, I flicked my shoe off my foot and smashed the wasp against the ceiling with my shoe landing flat on the ground in front of me. I just stepped back in and kept going about my day. Everyone was standing in awe of my happy accident. Noticed an error on our website that would affect customers. Emailed the web team about it thinking they'd ignore it until someone higher up brought it to their attention. They read it, implemented changes, and CC'd my director to thank me for the input. The first time my wife and I went out to eat with our new baby, he was sitting in a baby seat next to the table, and he started crying. I picked up a salt shaker and set it right in front of him, and said, "Watch this." And he looked at the salt and stopped crying. Got a free watch offer from a decent company I'd bought from before, but you had to spend over $300. I added 4 of the free watches, which were usually $75, into the cart, which registered as $300. I went to check out and a green -$300 appears in the bill. Added my shipping address and 2 weeks later they came. I was flying somewhere. After everyone else was boarded, I went up to the gate agent and asked about being upgraded to first class. After a bunch of typing on her computer, she said sure and asked how I would like to pay for it. I said by asking nicely. To my amazement, she gave me a boarding pass for my new first class seat. I remember playing hide and seek with my cousins when we were kids. We were hiding when my youngest cousin at the time, about elementary school age, came into the room. I said, "There's nobody here but us chickens, like in a cartoon I'd seen." She said, "Okay," and left. Told my boss I wouldn't accept a new position they offered me if I didn't get a 25% pay increase. I didn't really think it would work and that they would try to counter my offer, but it did. Trying to unclog a toilet without a plunger. Poured some fabric softener in there just to see if it would help and it cleared it right up almost immediately. Semicolon. A little kid I was babysitting put a ton of toilet paper in and clogged the toilet. I couldn't find a plunger, and I figured maybe it would soften the paper up and help clear the block. As I remembered hearing about dish soap helping break down fats in poop and helping to clear clogs. I poured it in, walked away to put the softener back, and walked back into the bathroom to hear a large glug and a totally clear toilet. Semicolon. Edit. Holy shit. Haha, my inbox. Thanks for the silver. Until what a poop knife is. The entire grade went on a field trip to a bowling arcade place to celebrate completing middle school. I was at a claw machine, not sure exactly what it's called. I'm talking about the machine where you direct a claw and try to grab a toy with it, and I asked my friend to look at the claw from the side to see if it was lined up with the toy I wanted. Just then, a boy from another class walked up and said to me, "You know that those are a scam, right?" Apostrophe. I was flustered and hit the button to lower the claw without even waiting for my friend to tell me if it was lined up properly. The claw came back up with 2 toys and dropped them in the collection box. The boy was silent for a moment before saying that was actually pretty good and walking away. I'll never be so cool again in my entire life. Went to a dirt track race in the middle of Illinois. My friend went to buy his own tickets. I walked up the front gate and pulled out a Missouri Conservation Heritage card I bought for $2 to renew my turkey hunting tags. I walked up the front gate, drunk mind you, and said in a friendly but stern and confident voice, "Sir, this is my Missouri Conservation Heritage card." Gestured to the gate and followed up with, "I think this should be fine enough." He goes, "Missouri Conser what?" Even more stern, "Missouri Department of Conservation Heritage card." Sir. It says right here. He just goes, oh right. Apartment Missouri, yes right away, go on through. I said thanks and walked in. I think the confidence I showed as if my card meant anything, let alone in another state, was enough for him to go, who cares, I'll just let him in. I saved like $7, but it was a fun story when my buddy asked how I got in before him. I was on a first date. Normally, I never go beyond making out on a first date, but that day I was feeling bold, so I decided to ask her if she wanted to come over and meet my roommate's dog. Yep. That worked. I tried that line on a few more girls and it also worked. I bought a house with a kitchen that hasn't been updated since the 60s. Mostly because I love the light brown oven. Shortly after moving in, the oven stopped working correctly. We couldn't find anybody to repair it. So we found the elements at a scrapyard and replaced them. It still didn't work. We were about to have it replaced when I begged for one more chance. The oven had a clock on it and a time bake function, so you could set your oven to bake something at a specific time. The clock was broken when we bought the house. I decided to try cooking something on the time bake setting instead of regular bake. It turns out that the dial had been put back on at the wrong angle. So time bake equals regular bake. I've been using the oven for maybe 3 or 4 years now and it's not perfect, but it gets the job done. Pretty much anyone who does programming. I have no idea what this does. Don't remove or it will break. I half ran a stop sign that got ran a lot. Cop pulled me over. By half ran, I mean, I was doing a California slow roll through. And halfway through I saw the cop and stopped. He walks up. Asked me if I knew I ran the stop sign. I said yes. Then, I don't know why, but I asked, may I have your mercy? He takes a step back. Looked a little perplexed. Runs my license. Comes back. And just says, today, I'm merciful. Stop running stop signs. Let off with a warning. Friend's dad a couple years ago has an old Windows 2000 computer with a dead hard drive. Normally this wouldn't be an issue as it's an old ass machine, just get a new one. But unfortunately this hard drive had the only backup copy of some very important family pictures since the external HDD they kept important file backups on died a few weeks prior. Went through every troubleshooting step I could think of in order to recover the data and nothing. As far as I could tell, drive was completely shot. So in one last desperate attempt I blew on the connectors and the ports like I was trying to get my NES cartridge to work. Flicked the drive with my finger. And gave it a small dramatic speech about needing to stay alive for the family. F-King thing booted. Stayed on long enough for me to grab the files. And then went dead. The brakes on my crappy SUV went completely out one day. So instead of paying for a tow truck, my dad decided to connect my car to his pickup truck with a big chain, my car in front, dad in back, and have me drive to the mechanic shop. My car could still accelerate just fine. Just no brakes whatsoever. So we called each other on our cell phones, and every time I needed to slow down or stop I'd just tell him and he'd hit the brakes on the pickup, which would either slow my car or yank it stopped if he did it too abruptly. It was completely stupid, illegal, and definitely dangerous, but we got there just fine and didn't have to drop $100 on a tow truck, so it worked. The first time I hit on a girl, we ended up sleeping together that night, and the whole time I was thinking, whoa, that actually worked. Puts hand on shoulder. Hey. I'm a straight dude with a lot of gay friends. One of them jokingly refers to me as king of the gays. I was visiting some friends in another city a few weeks ago and we try to go into a gay bar. But the doorman tells me there's a cover charge. I, being drunk, blurted out, but I'm king of the gays, and he laughed and let me in. Hi. I'm Gandhi. And if Britain doesn't get the hell out of India, I'm going to starve myself. Friend brought me his Acer netbook around 2008. Remember those crappy things? The machine wouldn't boot up and seemed pretty dead. Looked around forums and found a few mention of soldering from the power connector going bad. Solution was to fit the netbook in a precise spot. I tried a few smell hit but no success. Reading down on post, someone mentioned that you actually had to hit it fairly hard. That most people just didn't want to risk it hard enough. I thought okay, nothing to lose anyway, and punched the netbook pretty hard with my fist and plugged it back in. Damn thing booted fine and actually worked normally after that until my friend forgot about it or threw it away. Can't remember. Only IT case I ever saw where the real fix was actually percussive maintenance.